Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome. Hope you all had a great weekend. Or, well, it's Wednesday, so a weekend and then the last couple of days. Hey, by the way, if you're in Morrilton, I don't know, hit the ground. Hit the deck. I don't know what the hell. I don't know what that was all about. Something going on. Someone with a armed individual. So, again, if you're watching this and you're around that area, around that region, if you will, just be on the lookout for some crazy dude. Absolutely nuts, man. I was my phone exploded. That's so loud, and you're like swiping really hard on your phone, and you can't get the damn. It's like, all right, I get it, man, and it's screaming at you all while you're like panicking, waking up the whole house. All right, again, I hope you guys have had since last time we were here talking, I hope you guys have had a good last several days. I was in Silver Dollar City on Saturday. Hot, miserable, stinky. Ooh, always fun, though, in Silver Dollar City. Always fun. All right, we've got a special one coming up for you here shortly. Mason Choate from Arkansas Rivals, which is HogBeat, is going to join us. We're going to talk about everything, baseball, basketball, football. We're going to try and cover it all. Not really. It's not a debate per se. It's at all, really. It's just going to be like any other interview, like when we've had Stephen Hamner of QB Spotlight, Blake Lovell. When we've had other interviews back when I used to interview Otis Kirk. It's going to be just like that. Dudley Dawson. But maybe he and I won't agree on something, but I have a feeling we're probably going to agree on a lot. So let me make sure. There we go. All right. So, yeah, what up, Ty? What's going on, Hogs for Life? How you doing? First off, let me say this is possible thanks to, of course, you guys, the Patreon supporters. Don't forget, we're giving away 2 legendary status cards, both of which are obviously going to be autographed. So big shout out to all Patreon supporters, Talk with Ty Patreon supporters, over 100. I think we're at 109 right now at the moment, total supporters. So yeah, if you want to be eligible for a card, can't just be a free member of the Patreon. You got to be a paid member to be eligible for that card. Also, direct service overhead, the Garage Door Company, same-day services, quality parts, affordable outcomes. Hundreds of 5-star reviews, better than best results. 501-244-3667. That's the number to call if you want to get if you want to get a hold of direct service overhead. And the link is provided for you down below. Insurance Max. Sign up or call for a free quote. You get a chance at winning a copy of EA College Football 25. All you got to do is, it's real simple. Just click the link or give them a call. They offer business, personal, life and health insurance, retirement. We shop the best rates for you, covering all 4 corners of the state of Arkansas. Yeah, we got people in our Discord talking about this guy. This individual in Morrilton. Police department received information. He's from Oklahoma. I guess he's wanted for killing some people in Oklahoma. I don't know. Be careful down there. Holy crap. It's dangerous out there. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe if you would. Let me read some comments for a dude that hates interviews. I don't hate interviews. Did I ever say that? I don't hate interviews. I like interviewing. And Mason and I talk at practice quite a bit. He's a good guy. I like Mason. He always offers a little bit different perspective. I think he's going to offer, I know, one perspective that some of you guys, maybe you won't agree with, maybe you will. I don't know. I'll bust a cap if he makes it to Oh, my goodness. Yeah. All right. Well, you guys just be safe. How about that? Here he is. Mason Cho. How you doing, man?
What's up, Ty? I'm doing great. How are you?
Man, I'm doing well. Did your phone explode this morning?
No, my phone did not explode this morning. I'm good.
You didn't get the alert about this guy in Morrilton?
Oh yeah, I got that. I don't ever freak out about that stuff, but mainly it's because I guess I'm just up early in the morning. I did see some people who were like, that woke me up out of my sleep. So
Yeah. Yeah, it did me. It startled me for sure, and it woke up my house. Woke
yeah.
up my 2 kids. So, all right. Well, if you don't know by now, you should know. This is, of course, Mason Cho of HogBeat.com. Mason, how long have you been at HogBeat?
I've been at HogBeat since August of 2021. Andrew Hutchinson hired me, and then he decided to go to Best of Arkansas Sports in
Yep.
July of 2022, and I was offered the managing editor position. And then Rivals approached me and wanted me to be the publisher, and so kind of fast tracked myself, and here we are, publisher of HogBeat.com.
Yeah, man. It's always it's funny. I was thinking about this the other day, and I was talking with someone about this. I said, "Man, I'm going to bring Mason on," and it's funny when he and I are at practice. There's always something photogenic that happens within 10 feet or within 10 or 20 feet every time you and I are like at practice together, and it's pretty interesting. I think we saw that Tesla, the crazy grab that he made on the sidelines. What was that,
Yeah.
like a year ago or so?
Yeah, man, those one-handed catches, like I figured out that if I tweet about it, or it's not just me, but like if anybody tweets about it happening, usually the team will then tweet out the highlight later on, and it makes it a lot better because it's like nobody else was there to see it. And when you say like a guy had a one-handed catch, people just assume that they're just like running routes on air and he just caught it with one hand. No, most of these are actually pretty impressive plays, especially when it's Isaac Tesla. He's a solid wide receiver.
Yeah, that catch was, I mean, that still stands out. That was crazy.
Yeah.
And I thought we were going to see a whole lot of that the following season, and didn't really transpire, but hopefully it will this year. All right. Again, guys, feel free if you have any questions. If I get to them, I'll read them aloud. But we'll just go ahead and get started. We'll get started off with, well, the thing that I know you cover. I mean, I know you cover all of it, and you've got guys like Jackson who help you with basketball and do all, cover all the sports. But I would say baseball seems to be like your favorite sport, or at least it seems that way to me. But
It definitely is. It definitely is. And from my perspective of just covering athletics, baseball is the most fun. It's slower. We get a little bit more access. DVH is, a pro's pro when it comes to just like talking with the media. And obviously, they win at a high level. So it makes it a little bit more fun.
Well, then let's get started there. And so this is just, we can approach this however, but it's just thoughts on what happened to Arkansas baseball through the season, most notably the pitching. That's the thing that stood out for sure as the regular season came to a conclusion. We know they started off really strong, and then, Tigert and Molina, we just weren't getting the same kind of production. Just kind of give us your perspective on that and what you thought might have happened.
Yeah, early on in the season, I think everybody was like, "This is the best pitching staff in America." And when you said that, that was a pretty accurate statement, and it was for over half of the season. And you reached a point, kind of, not even in the second half, like the third quarter or fourth quarter of the season, where Tigert and Molina, Tigert had a little bit of soreness, Molina had the ankle injury, and so neither one of them felt like they were 100% healthy. But once you got past the SEC tournament and you got to the regional, you felt like at least both guys were probably ready to get back to where they were, and they just didn't. And I don't know what happened. I can't tell you exactly what happened with them. And Dave Van Horn said it once the season was over that Hagan carried them, and that is true. You knew that you were going to probably get one win a weekend for sure, and that's when Hagan Smith pitched, and then you didn't really know what was going to happen after that, at least for like the last 3 weekends of the regular season. And yes, the pitching kind of dropped off, but at the same time, you got to be like, well, the bats never carried them at all year unless you were playing in the midweeks. And so, and that was just a fact. Like they weren't getting the big hits. They didn't have really the home run numbers that they normally have, and they never had a consistent lineup. I don't know how much that contributed to maybe the offensive inconsistencies. With baseball's that sport where if you're in the lineup consistently every day, you can kind of, I guess, play more consistent. I'm saying consistent a lot, but when you're in the lineup every day, it makes it a little bit easier for you, at least from a confidence perspective. When you don't know if your name's going to be on the lineup card, your confidence probably isn't that high. And so not to say that was, a coaching issue, but I'm just saying, like, when you don't have the same guys in the lineup in the same spots every day, then you got a lot of guessing and guys who are pressing. You think of a guy like Jason Jones who hit the transfer portal, never really got a consistent shot. Not that he didn't, he didn't do enough to earn it, obviously. But maybe if he did, maybe he does better. I don't know. We'll see what happens at his next stop.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the transfers here in a second. Speaking of hitting, and you and I briefly talked about this yesterday. Nate Thompson caught quite a bit of heat this season. Arkansas hitting, or at least most offensive numbers, were near the bottom, I think, in most categories. I think their team batting average was, I want to say, maybe 10th as the season concluded. Your thoughts on Arkansas hitting, and is blame maybe being a little misplaced? Maybe it's not just Thompson. Maybe there's some other stuff going on. Give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm never really going to be in the camp of Nate Thompson is the problem. I'm just not. I don't believe that's the case. And I see every single time, every single year when we get to that point of Arkansas is knocked out of the tournament, you have, people who want to bring up, well, here's what this player's stats looked like before they got to Arkansas, and here's what it looked like after Nate Thompson.
Yeah.
And it'll be a player like Will Edmondson who was, playing JUCO ball and hitting in the Sunflower League in summer ball, and he hit 400. And people were like, he was hitting 400 in summer ball, and he comes to Arkansas, and look what happens. Well, who was he facing? What kind of pitching was he going up against? What kind of arms was he seeing, not only in practice every day, but on the mound in live action? The SEC is the highest level of college baseball. It's a little bit more difficult than where some of these guys are coming from. Now, I understand people's gripe, and if you want to say that there needs to be a change, that's fine, but you don't get to make that decision. The head coach of the program gets to make that decision, and he clearly doesn't think there's an issue. And so I'm going to take him at his word for it, because he's been doing it for a long time, and he's won at a high level, and he continues to do that. Arkansas has won more baseball games over the past 4 or 5 years. We saw that graphic a few times than any program in the country.
Yep.
So they're obviously doing something right. And Dave Van Horn said it, and I kind of agree with him. They just got to go get a little bit of a different kind of player. You look in the outfield this year, and this is no offense to some of the guys that they brought in, but like Ty Wilmsmeyer in center field, compare that to some of the center fielders you've had in years past, and that's not going to cut it. Like Ross Lovich was nearly unplayable in the outfield at times because he made mistakes, but he could hit. And so they got to find the right situation. Kendall Diggs, another one. Like Kendall Diggs led you in RBI last year, and then he was hurt all year, and you couldn't get it figured out, but you had to play him because he was your best option. And I loved how DVH said, like, think back to last year, Wagner, Borafin, Josenberger in the outfield. Imagine if they had that outfield this year. They're probably still playing baseball right now, So it's how it is. You bring guys in like that, they're probably here for a year. They're going to leave. You lose guys you were expecting to get in the draft, then you got to figure something out. That's when you end up having to bring in maybe a Jared Sprague lot late in the season, or not season, late in the off season. And he ended up being like a good get. But you're just not going to hit on all these guys. And maybe that's why you're seeing them be a little bit more patient in the portal right now, because they're looking for the right fit. And so far, and I know we're going to hit on it here in a second, but so far they're getting that more of an athlete type than maybe what they were going for previously, which I really don't know exactly what it was, to be honest.
So yeah, we'll just transition right into the transfers then. It's Aloy's brother. I'm not sure how to pronounce that first name. Is it Kuhio?
I think that's
Kuhio Aloy, from BYU. Charles Davalin, who was at Florida Gulf Coast, and then Carson Hansen, who's played at Wisconsin Milwaukee. Well, can you tell us about these three? And yeah, I mean, this is a little bit slower start than I thought, but I trust DVH, man. I mean, that's just all there is to it. But what can you tell us about these three guys so far?
Yeah, so Kuhio, brother of Vahiva, younger brother, also from Hawaii, obviously. He was a freshman Big 12 guy, like all Big 12 freshman team, and he was legit this year with the bat. His first game, he had a home run. So he knows how to swing the bat. What he told me was Arkansas is also pitching or recruiting him to pitch a little bit. So a lot of people don't know that. He sits 92, 93 on the fastball. He's got a few different pitches, 3 or 4 different pitches. Now, I don't know how much they're going to pitch him. I don't know if they're even going to work him at pitcher.
Yeah.
But he told me that when they were recruiting him, they said that they wanted him to maybe pitch a little bit. So that's something to watch with him. But he was a DH, started 50 games. He can play first a little bit. We'll see if he contributes next year. Not 100% sure. Davalin, the guy from Florida Gulf Coast, 64 Analytics has him as a top 50 transfer prospect. This is a guy who's a legit athlete. He hit 10 home runs last year. He was an all-conference type guy. I think that he could start in the outfield next year. And Carson Hansen, same situation from Milwaukee. He had 25 doubles. I think that's 7th in the nation. That's a lot of doubles. Also, double-digit home run guy, hit over 300. So you're seeing them go, and not only are they getting guys who can hit the long ball, which people are like, why do they want to keep hitting the long ball? Well, the top 4 teams, the final 4 teams in college baseball are about to be all top 10 in home runs in college baseball this year. So it matters that you can hit home runs. But also, yeah, but also you need to look at the fact that some of these guys like Davalin and Hansen, these guys are athletes too. They're getting guys that maybe can run the bases, but who are also going to be legit in the outfield. That's what they need. They just didn't really have that this year. And that's no offense to the guys that they got. It is what it is, but they're really trying to get that higher level of athlete who can kind of do it all for them. And I think that so far the guys that they got are good additions. I wouldn't say any of them are splash additions, and I wouldn't say they're done at all. And I also, there's a lot of people who are like, why are they going so slow? What's going on? This is not the football portal. This is not the basketball portal. The season isn't even over yet.
Yeah.
A lot of the big fish who are going to enter the portal have not even hit the portal yet. So the MLB draft is not until mid-July.
Yep.
So there's a lot of time for them to figure this stuff out.
What do you have any idea on the number of transfers? Because I know obviously every year there's always that turnover. You have any idea on what the number might be?
I don't know, because it's so weird that they've only had 2 guys hit the portal so far, Hunter Grimes and Jason Jones. Not to say like they're going to have other guys hit the portal, and maybe everybody wants to stick around and see if they can make the team in the fall. That's one of the things with baseball is that they don't have to trim the number down before the fall. They can give these guys a shot. Now, if you're a player, you're taking a chance because it's a lot more difficult to transfer out post-fall. But that situation is fluid. I don't know exactly what they're going to do because I don't know who else is going to transfer out. So I think it's just really tough. And that's why Dave Van Horn gets so mad when he talks about the dates of the MLB draft is because he doesn't know who he's going to lose to the draft from his signing class. He doesn't know who he's going to lose to the draft from his current roster. He doesn't know who he's going to lose to the draft. Like they have guys that'll commit out of the transfer portal who will sign in the draft. They had a dude last year, Craig Yoho, a transfer from Indiana who would have been a really big piece of the pitching staff this year, who got drafted, and maybe he wasn't expecting to get picked as high, and he signed for a very little amount of money. And I'm sure Arkansas was really upset that happened. And so all those things are factors that they're having to weigh when thinking about all this.
Yeah, the MLB does college baseball no favors. I mean, it just doesn't seem that way. I had that conversation with Dudley Dawson a little while back. Well, it's probably been a couple of years, but they just don't do NCAA baseball a whole lot of favors, and the draft is just kind of is what it is. But yeah, so yeah, we know that I have their JUCO list too. 1, 2, 3, 4 guys out of JUCO. Is that right? Justin Thomas, Brent Iredell, Carson Schrack, and Colton Reynolds.
Yeah, I think we've also got Trenton Rowan out of Seward County Community College on our list. The name out of that list, so everybody likes Brent Iredell out of New Mexico, JUCO. Hit 25 home runs last year, so legit power in that bat. I like this guy, Justin Thomas, out of Florida Southwestern State. He was down there playing for Cullen Smith, former Arkansas Razorback, learning from a guy who's been in the program, but also, he played for Georgia before he transferred to JUCO, then committed to Arkansas before playing this year, hit 14 homers, 21 doubles, 49 RBI, hit over 300, nearly 400. Reminds me a lot of Caleb Cali, to be honest with you, a Florida JUCO guy who can swing the bat well, who was previously committed to a legit Power 5 school. Caleb Cowley started his career at Florida State, I think. So I think Justin Thomas could be, he plays in the outfield. I think he's kind of like an athlete all around type of guy. He stole 35 bases this year. So that's a guy that I'm keeping my eye on.
So I mean, it feels like with baseball, and yeah, I'm looking at their numbers right now. 441 batting average for Iredale. That's pretty crazy. I don't have his at bat total, but that's 25 homers. That's pretty crazy. It feels like, especially with DVH here, they're probably going to put together a really good, solid team that's probably going to go on another regular season run, and then of course the hopes are that they can advance into the supers and then into Omaha, but that just didn't happen the last couple of years. But hopefully, you know what, we change that up in 2024 or 2025. So yeah, all right. Well, there you go. You guys follow Mason over on HogBeat with baseball. They crush it over there. I mean, they crush it on everything, but I know baseball is just. It seems like that is definitely one of the highlights of what you guys do over there for sure.
Selfishly, I think we're the best at it. But
I don't. Yeah, when I see numbers, I'm like, you got those from HogBeat, didn't you? And someone will be like, yeah, no, that's exactly where I pulled those numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, moving on to basketball. This is some of this is kind of we're just trying to get everyone a little caught up, but this is old news at this point. But I want your thoughts on this roster as it stands at the moment.
I think it's a solid roster, man. I think that the freshmen that they brought in, at least from numbers wise and film, looks good, right? The transfers they brought in from rankings perspective looks good. John L. Davis, great job. You go and get Jonas Ado from Tennessee, great job. Big Z, he brings you some size, but this is a situation where it's kind of a little bit different from what Cal has built at Kentucky. So we're going to see how it works. He brought some of his guys from Kentucky, Thiero, DJ Wagner. We talked about Big Z, and then you get Trevin Brazil back. So I like the roster. It's just one of those things where everybody's going to say you like the roster, especially this one with like if you just look at the recruiting rankings, you're going to feel great about it. And I do think that they're probably done from a scholarship perspective. So that's good for them. And Cal just went on Dan Patrick and basically reiterated that earlier today that he wants to stick at that 8-9 range. They're at 9 after Brazil. And so probably going to add like some walk-on type guys. Don't know exactly who those guys are going to be. Heck, they could even be there now, and we don't know. It's just one of those situations where I think they're probably done with scholarship guys. I like the way it looks, but I'm not a basketball guy. I'm the baseball guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you like it?
I mean, it's yeah. And I asked, I ran this by you yesterday about if you were buying that Cal was done adding NIL players, and just wondering what maybe you guys have heard over there. I know they're going to fill up the rest with walk-ons, or at least that's what I think we were told a few weeks ago, that Cal wanted older walk-on players, and to kind of help balance that out, I guess for practice sake. I'm not really sure. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe they're just going to roll with these 9. But yeah,
this is because they have the support staff. So how like the manager team went and performed and whatever that was. I think it's kind of like that situation where like these dudes are in practice, they're playing, like they're part of a lot of these scrimmages. They're playing. You have to know how to play basketball and be good at it. So I think. And this is probably, there might be somebody out there thinking that I sound like an idiot right now, but the way that I think of it is that they're just trying to get these guys who are going to help their scholarship dudes in practice, maybe challenge them a little bit, dudes who, can shoot, can play some defense, maybe could play somewhere at a smaller level, but they want to go to Arkansas so they can be a part of something like that. Yeah. That's how I view it.
I had Blake Lovell on, I think that it was last week, from Southeastern 14. And he and I have talked a little bit about just like, imagine if, oh my gosh.
There it is.
Serious?
That's the same guy.
Good Lord, turn off. Oh my gosh. That's a first. I've never had that happen before. Yeah. I should have preemptively turned my phone down. That's my bad. Sorry about that. What was I saying? Oh, Blake Lovell and I were talking about, imagine if this guy, if this guy gets going, what this could really do for this roster. And the two names that just keep popping up are Big Z, Zvonimir, and of course, Trevon Brazil. Like, what will that do? Imagine what that'll do in opening up, the outside, opening up the perimeter for these guards, these hot shot guards they've got coming in. Guys like John L. Davis, or I'm sorry, Nelly Davis, as we're supposed to call him. I mean, it just feels like you could probably make that argument for anybody. Well, imagine, Nelly goes off, and what will that do for the whole roster? But I feel like this team would greatly benefit if someone like Zvonimir or Brazil, or even, we mentioned Thero, who's another guy who could play around down in the paint. It's such a roster that feels maybe a little more flexible than we realize, just looking at it, even with just those 9 guys. So really excited about this roster. Speaking of Brazil, do you feel like he could stay healthy and have that breakthrough season this year? Do you feel like that's coming for him?
I sure hope so. I mean, like, we all think back to prior to the ACL injury and how good he was. And like, you look back at that, let's see, what year was that? So last year was 23, 24, that 22, 23 season. And you think about, man, what if they had a healthy Trevon Brazil? Obviously, you're probably not going to beat UConn. So that you can throw that out the window. But what did the team look like if Trevon Brazil's healthy? Then you saw that last year, and now you think, okay, what does it look like if you have a healthy Trevon Brazil and, you don't have all the outside factors that were going on, which who knows what the heck really was going on. But obviously things were just not going well for him, maybe mentally, but physically he was also still battling some injuries. I remember, what was it, the Ole Miss game? He left at halftime, and then we didn't see him for a little bit. So if he can be healthy, Trevon Brazil was a dude who, they were talking about him prior to last year as maybe being a first-round pick. Yep. And so I think he can work himself back into an NBA draft pick, and he probably was told at the NBA Combine, like, hey, if you go back to Arkansas and do what, you showed before the ACL injury, then, you can probably get drafted. And it was kind of ironic because you were looking at the roster before the announcement of Brazil coming back, and you were like, man, they could really just use like a stretch 4 who's kind of athletic and can step out and shoot it and block some shots, that, kind of that mold. And all you could think about was, well, Trevon Brazil. That would be awesome if you could get a guy like Trevon Brazil. And sure enough, they did. And now you got Brazil, you got Big Z, and you got Jonas Adu. Those are 3 dudes, 6'10 plus, that, are legit, athletes who can do it all a little bit. So it should be exciting to see. I'm excited.
Yeah, they've actually got, again, it's the flexibility of this of a I'm not going to say limited roster. It's just not what we're used to with Muss, 12, 13 guys, whatever, all on scholarship. But it's like there's a lot of variety here, and you've got guys that could play multiple positions up and down. I don't know, I think they officially have, like, I feel like half this roster are combo guards. I mean, I know that's not really the case, but you've got a couple of cats who could play the 1 or the 2. There's just so much. There's a lot you could do with this roster, and it's going to fit Cal really well. And he does have a mix of a little bit more age than I think he's probably used to. We know his reputation at Kentucky was the one and dones, bringing these guys in that are future lottery picks. But then that, the problem, I guess, according to him, was that these guys are too young. Once you get into a tournament setting, you're facing these guys that are 24 years old. I'm not going to do it. Chat's waiting on me to do I do a really good, I think it's good, a really good Cal impersonation. He's 26 years old. Anyway,
I don't know if you heard him on Dan Patrick earlier. Dan was roasting Cal because he keeps saying that Golke is 26 when he's 24 years old.
24. Yeah, he's 24.
Yeah. So,
that's what's so funny about it. Like, he's 24. I know it's 2 years, but that's probably a pretty big difference. We're talking college ball. We're not talking about the NBA.
Yeah.
By the way, shout out to my Celtics. Oh my goodness. It felt so good.
Yeah.
I was texting Dudley all night, like, oh yeah, we did it. Yeah, let's go. I was excited.
Jordan Walsh got the ring. What is he like? I think I saw something. He's the 5th youngest player in NBA history to win an NBA
Something
championship.
like that. Yeah, I mean, dude's younger than I am. But you know what? McVay, and I'm a Ram fan too. McVay was, I don't know, 30. How old was he when they won the Super Bowl? 38, 39 or something. You're seeing these young coaches have this big of an impact at the pro level. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see if we have any. Let's reach out here really quick. Boz Hog. What about
Arkansas got a commitment? I don't know if you talked about it yet.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't know if we're gonna wait to talk about that till we get into football. Football is our next part, but they did get a commit, and I'm assuming it was Bell.
It was Bell, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I see it now. Okay, I got tagged. Yeah, Bell, Caleb Bell. All right, well, you know what? Let's just transition right into football then.
Okay.
What do you know about Caleb Bell?
I'm reading on HogBeat.com right here, courtesy of our man Daniel Ferry. He's the son of former NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year Kendrell Bell. Chose the Hogs over NC State, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Louisville. He's a 3-star out of Alpharetta, Georgia. So there you go, another one.
Really good offer list, if I remember.
Yeah, it looks like it. There's a guy over the weekend that maybe didn't have that great of an offer list. But you look at this one, Colorado's on there, East Carolina, Kansas, Kentucky, Memphis, Mississippi State, Missouri's in there. Yeah, there you go. Some good schools.
Not too bad. Not too shabby. So we've had an alert from the alert system, and then we got to commit. I tell these guys all the time, things happen when I go live. This always happens.
That's how it goes. Every time that you have to do something where you can't address what's going on, that's when it's going to happen.
That's exactly it. Never fails. All right. Well, yeah. So that puts them at 13 total commitments. Is that right?
That's correct. And the class ranks 33 nationally on Rivals currently.
That's a strong 33, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Most of them 3 stars. One's a 2-star, but that's a kicker. Maybe we should take him off so that doesn't hurt the rankings. I don't know. But I think he might be a scholarship guy. And then obviously Grayson Wilson. Shout out to him for going to Conway, by the way. Go Wampus Cats.
Yeah, going to Conway. That's right. Yeah, you're from Conway, right?
I am.
Yeah. That's right.
Yes.
Remember that conversation.
I'm again selfishly very excited about Grayson Wilson being at Conway, and it's funny because I have some friends who are close with some of the Fayetteville football staff, and I've been out to a practice or two to watch them, and I just get a little scared watching Fayetteville because they're really good and they've built kind of a super team, and I want Conway to win it all. So we'll see if Grayson Wilson can put them over the hump.
Casey Dick, it's just crazy to think watching him blow up an LSU player on a Darren McFadden run, and now he's coaching my alma mater. He's coaching Fayetteville. It's just it's wild.
Yeah, it was weird for me because Casey was the first quarterback I ever remember watching. But also just being out at practice and when a ball kind of rolls over to Casey and he picks it up and just throws it, it's just, as a former Razorback fan who grew up watching Casey Dick, it's just kind of weird to see him just throw a football just randomly like that. I know it's so many years later, but it's so weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's turned Fayetteville. I mean, Fayetteville, not exactly a powerhouse. When I was there, we had the Clark brothers, Michael Brizell, who ended up playing in the pros, was a year ahead of me. We had some really good players, played under Mike Adams, but never really dominant. We always had to deal with Springdale. And then, of course, you get the Springdale 5 several years later. I graduated in 02, so that was, 05. And the Springdale 5 with Gus Malzahn, Mitch Mustaine, all those guys, And now, since the Harbor Springdale High split, it's not that way anymore. And I kind of hate that because that rivalry between Fayetteville and Springdale, it's just not what it once was. It's kind of sad to see.
Well, now it's Fayetteville-Bentonville. That rivalry is heated. The C.J. Brown, freshman receiver for Arkansas, he was probably the most hated player on that Bentonville team. And I would hate him too if I was a defensive back trying to guard him, man. It was impossible. He carried Bentonville for a little bit, and that's no offense to anybody else on Bentonville. He was just that good, in my opinion. So But yeah, Fayetteville's a powerhouse now, man. And shout out to Buck James for leaving Bryant to allow that to happen. I hate Bryant, man, or I hated Bryant when I was in high school as a Conway grad. I'm allowed to hate Bryant when they beat us every year in one state every single year. It's kind of annoying.
Yeah. Well, state of high school football in Arkansas, a lot has changed, especially since I played. A lot has changed. It's a different world. Of course, we didn't have 7A back in the day. The highest you went was 5A, and the 5A was typically between it and, of course, Central Arkansas. The 5A West and 5A Central were definitely really, really strong parts of the state, but still not producing the amount of talent I kind of thought NWA would be producing, especially with all the Walmart transplants. And having worked at Sam's Club, I worked at a home office for a short while. So many transplants and so many kids playing football. And I remember hearing parents talking about their kids playing ball at Bentonville or whatever, trying to go to Fayetteville. And it was like, when does this pay off? Like, when do we start to see, with all the, with Tyson, JB Hunt, Walmart, Sam's Club, HQ, all being up here, vendors being pulled into the area. When do we see that influx of high school talent? And it just hasn't really happened.
No.
They have an offensive lineman, I blank on his name, who played at Bentonville, his mom was literally a transplant through Walmart. And I cannot for the life of me think of his name off the top of my head right now. He was there during spring camp. But anyways, his mom was from California, and she got brought in from out of state to go work for Walmart, and he's on at Arkansas. And I'm just wondering when that will ever expand. It just really hasn't. But hopefully Little Rock gets back to the way it used to be, when just pumping out talent left and right. But basketball's working out, football not so much.
And it's also it might not be the same. And I think kind of people have gotten this vibe. It's not the same as it used to be, where like if you're an in-state kid, going to Arkansas is no question.
That's very true. Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. I mean, it's actually kind of, I don't know. It's frustrating from a perspective of an Arkansas grad when I'm talking to maybe some high school coaches and they have these legit players who are SEC talent, and it's like you look at their offers, and the first team that offers a lot of these in-state kids in Arkansas is Missouri almost every single time.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why is it Missouri coming into Arkansas and finding these diamonds in the rough before Arkansas can, And maybe that's just not their recruiting strategy, and that's fine if that's the case. But letting Missouri come in and get those, I mean, we saw the Crutchfield situation.
Oh man.
So and we'll see how that plays out. But it's not just him that they're trying to do that stuff with. So I don't know.
Whatever transpires, whatever happens at the end, transpires at the end of the year for football. I would love to see them get back to the pipeline recruiting. And I know high school recruiting is not what it once was either. You're not taking as many players. You're leaving scholarships open for the for transfer portal and whatnot. But I wish they would get back to the just really, really recruiting heavy into Louisiana. When you think back to some of the best rosters that Arkansas ever put together, whether it was Houston Nutt or Bobby Petrino, a few under Brett Bielema, it was dipping into Louisiana. And if you look at this roster, I think they maybe have one or two players from that state.
Yeah, Cross Johnson is one that comes to mind. Obviously, he was like a 2-star freshman wide receiver, but like legit speed out of New Orleans. And I think it's Marcus Woodson, who's the assistant who came in, who knows the Louisiana area. Or maybe it's Darren Wilson. I think it's Darren Wilson.
I was going to say, I think it's Darren.
Yeah, it's Darren Wilson, who knows the Louisiana area. So I will say, one thing about Sam Pittman and the way that he's built a staff is that he's definitely got guys who are, experts in specific areas of recruiting. Like Woodson, great in the state of Mississippi. I know a lot of people don't like Scott Fountain, but Scott Fountain has recruited the state of Alabama really well. Wilson has come in and done Texas and Louisiana a little bit. So, they're at least getting that part of it down of like, let's have these guys who know these specific areas. And, every school does that, but we've seen it pay off a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that we know South Georgia is certainly an area that Pittman wants to be involved with. I guess, I don't know. I remember for the longest time, and again, recruiting has changed just so much, but it was the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It was Tulsa. You maybe dipped into Memphis a little bit, and then it was like Louisiana. It was it's like you would have so many players out of either northern Louisiana or down in New Orleans. You'd nab a few, and that just seems to not be the case anymore. We know that the product on the field wasn't great. It hasn't been great for the last couple of years. I'm sure that there's bigger problems than just, they're not recruiting out of Louisiana. I mean, I get it. It's a very complex situation. Let's just go ahead and keep going here for football. Pressure's definitely on Sam Pittman to produce a better product on the field in 2024. But the overall health and stability of the football program, which is high school recruiting, portal success, NIL involvement, and fan activity, feels like the lowest it's ever been, at least since Sam has been here. Can Sam win the people back over this year and save his job, Mason?
Yeah, he definitely can. Just win football games. That's as easy as it gets. But I think he can win them back. The Bobby Petrino hire, from an Arkansas perspective, it was awesome. But the more that I start to read some of these, we've ran some stuff on the Lindy's sports preview magazine, and you start to read all these, and really outside of Arkansas, everybody views the Petrino hire as like a desperation move. And I can see it from that perspective. I thought it was going to generate more excitement in spring ball. And I've talked to people about that. And a lot of the answers that I get is, people that really don't care that much during spring ball anyways. And I don't know, man. I feel like normally people, and there was a QB battle too. So I don't know. I thought there was going to be a little bit more. And this summer, every time I post a football story, it's just a response of like, until they fire Sam Pittman, I don't care.
I saw your tweet.
And I just I get it if you're an Arkansas fan and you're frustrated, and I completely understand, but I got a job to do and I'm going to write about them, and I'm excited about it. I'm a football guy. I'm excited about it. They have talent. And I think that this team has the leadership that they need for sure. That was a big theme during the spring, right? Was how they have leaders. Taylon Green seems like a great leader as QB1. Fernando Carmona Jr. transfers from San Jose State, who's probably going to be the starting left tackle. That's a legit leader and good human being. And I feel like they've kind of flipped maybe the type of guys they're going after from a perspective of just a human being. And maybe that doesn't translate into stars in recruiting, but we'll see how it translates onto the field. I think that maybe they had more talent last year, but I think they might have more potential this year, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
No, I hear you. And I like that, they got some pieces back, Armstrong and that receiver room is, I don't know. I mean, is it the best we've had at Arkansas? No. I mean, but everyone thinks back to, especially with Bobby Petrino being here, you remember the Warren group, right? All the guys from Warren, and that whole list of receivers was insane. Then you had Kobe Hamilton to top that off. I'm with you about spring ball. I thought it would generate more excitement, especially with the return of Petrino, with Taylon Green, with Jaquindon Jackson out of Utah, who, by the way, I don't know about you, but I was pretty impressed with him. As impressed as one can be with spring ball. I thought he looked pretty confident, pretty good running back, pretty solid.
He did good enough to force a couple of legit scholarship guys off the roster, right? I mean, Isaiah Augusta hit the portal the same day as the spring game. And it's not like we watched spring ball and we're saying this guy's not going to play. We watched spring ball and we're like, well, he has as much of a shot as anybody. And he probably saw a guy like Jaquindon Jackson and was like, dang, man, I don't know. Because Jaquindon Jackson was really that good in the spring. I think he was. I think he's a legit running back. I'm excited to watch him. I'm curious to see what happens with Rashad Dubinion because he's been hurt a little bit, And then Braylon Russell, man. Braylon Russell's going to be good if he can stay healthy. That dude he's humongous.
Oh my gosh. Tree trunk. I mean, that stood out to me oh my God, we're standing, I don't know how far, 35, 40 yards away. as close as we can get without actually being on the field. And you could see it when he was, coming out onto the field. Like, oh my God, that dude is thick.
Yeah.
He's gonna. I mean, some defenders are gonna bounce off that dude.
They did too in the spring. Like, I mean, it was this freshman running back who was like setting some legit dudes down. So,
and he's 18 years old.
He is, and that's another thing of like maybe that's why Augusta and Dominic Johnson was a different situation because he's had the injuries. What more can you do at Arkansas? And we the writing was on the wall with that. But a guy like Augusta, Braylon Russell might be another reason he left because he probably maybe didn't expect Braylon Russell to come in and take some touches away from him. And I think based off the spring, he probably did. So,
do you think? I mean, this is off the cuff a little bit. What do you think the rotation is going to look like out of the running backs? Do you think it's going to be Jaquindon, and then who? Like, who's the next? Is DeBinion going to be RB2, or does Braylon Russell crack into the 2 deep?
I think it'll be DeBinion, and those guys are good change of paces too because
they are.
Because Jackson's a bigger, power back, and we saw that, and he's great at shedding tackles too. I'm trying to think of who he reminds me of, and I can't think of right now.
Broderick Green, maybe?
No, not an Arkansas player.
Oh.
Oh
boy.
I guess recently I'm just thinking Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who from a size perspective, it's not a great comparison at all. But from a perspective of just keeping the legs churning and not being taken down by the first contact, that's what Jaquindon Jackson makes me think of. And then Rashad DeBinion's more of like a receiving back, and we saw that in the spring. And I think I asked Sam about it, like, do you guys like, throwing it to him out of the backfield? And it sounds like they like his hands back there. I really like the fact that Jaquindon Jackson's a former quarterback, though.
Yes.
Because it helps him just be able to read the defense as a running back, but also if he's going and running routes, he kind of has a little bit of an advantage over other guys because he views the field differently.
And that's a good point because he's also going to understand a little bit more, you would think, just from a protection standpoint, like what his job is when he's in pass protect, because that was certainly a problem last year.
Yeah.
Arkansas running backs did not do their part as far as blocking for the quarterback when they were asked to. I mean, they graded out horrible on PFF, and you didn't have to look at PFF. You could see it. They're getting blown by. They were always out of position when it came to blocking, along with the guys in front.
To defend the running backs, though, quite often there were just like untouched linebackers, SEC level linebackers running full speed at them because the protection just like made no sense, and they were just going to leave a guy like Harold Perkins untouched off the edge. You can't expect a guy like Rashad DeBinion to take Harold Perkins or whoever it may be one-on-one and try to and say, hey, we're trusting our quarterback's lives in your hands. So
that's fair. Yeah, they had to take on some extra responsibility because the offensive line last year was abysmal.
Yeah.
It was embarrassing how bad they were up front. And I think individually, I think those guys are capable SEC starters. But just as a unit, I really don't know. We don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but that's been a constant talk in their Trust Talk Discord, in the live shows. It's a no one could really agree on much, but I think most people agree that that offensive line, the protection was just awful, and hopefully with these new guys, I like Carmona. I'll say that I thought Carmona really stood out in camp.
Yeah,
looked pretty confident.
I like Mateos too as a coach better. We've talked to some recruits, and a lot of them have told, like I just talked to a recruit the other day who said Mateos is the best offensive line coach he's ever worked with. And this is a guy who's been to other, D1 camps, a lot of different D1 camps. And so, you're going to get some of that from recruits. They're going to say the good thing, say the right thing. But at the same time, I do think that Eric Mateos is probably an improvement at the offensive line coach spot. And you saw Sam Pitman kind of humble himself during the spring. And, the GA thing was Pitman being a GA was like a big storyline, but also I like Carmona, man. He held his own against Landon Jackson all spring.
What did.
What else can you say about the guy? Because Landon Jackson he's picking up a lot of draft hype right now. I like a guy like Keyshawn Blackstock who's just going to go out there and he's just going to hit you as hard as he can over at the other tackle spot. Now, I do think they got to figure the center spot out because Addison Nichols, the transfer from Tennessee, he's good, but I wasn't super impressed with just his ability to snap the ball in the spring. And that could be as simple as like new place, new quarterback, new offense, new everything. But at the same time, that's been a pretty solid spot with Ricky Stromberg and Bo Limmer the past few years. So we'll see if Nichols sticks there. I don't know. Maybe they can move a guy like Kudus there. I'd prefer Kudus just to stay at guard. And then Josh Braun obviously was an all SEC guy on a terrible offensive line last year. So that says enough about him, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So many moving pieces. It's still an area of concern for me. And I always look at, I've been doing this for a little bit. Every year I do this. I'm like, I'll write it out. Now I do it on Discord. I use a super duper secret server. And then I just make these different rooms. And I have one that's just strictly what are the question marks about Arkansas. And it's like offensive line, defensive line depth, linebacker, what's going on at the nickel spot, what's happening with Clark in the safety position. And the offensive line is still a question mark, and it's mostly because of all the moving parts and all the new faces.
Is wide receiver a question mark? Because I feel like that might be my biggest question mark.
I think that's fair. Even though I feel like I was the only one that was really excited about a couple of the guys in that room.
I'm excited about them too, but I just, I was excited about them going into last year.
Oh, fair, but like Tyrone Broden was hurt, right, last year. And Broden, I thought, man, I don't know. I'm not going to say I was completely blown away, but I was really impressed with Tyrone Broden. Andrew Armstrong, who had that hamstring issue in the spring, came back, and it was like he never missed a beat. But then, I'm with you, though. Like, these aren't high-rated former 4-star players that have shown signs of life yet. Yeah. Maybe Andrew Armstrong a little bit. There's so many question marks with this team.
Isaiah Satania is the big one for me because I feel like he could be the best wide receiver on this football team, and I just really want to see it happen. Andrew Armstrong, I think, is legit. I think he could have 1,000-yard season. Tyrone Broden, though, we got to see it from him because you say he was hurt, but he was hurt early in the year, and then he kind of came around late in the year, but never. I don't know how much the injury bothered him, but and also last year the offense, how much do you just factor in the fact that Dan Enos was calling the plays?
Right.
So that's why I think wide receiver is a bigger question mark for me, just because I just need to see it proven. Yeah. Now, I will say, I think the tight end room being so strong is definitely going to help as far as just the passing game. Luke Hasz could be the best tight end in the SEC. Marquise Gums was incredible in the spring. I mean, he was a completely different player in the spring.
I bragged on him all spring camp. I would make these little Patreon videos, and I'd be like, guys, I don't know what to tell you. Gums stood out again today. He's always open. He's always there on those underneath throws, and he catches everything. I don't know that I saw him drop very many balls during spring camp, and everyone drops balls in spring camp, okay? Sure, Randy Moss dropped plenty of balls in his time in spring camp. But Gums, I don't know. I felt like when you consider how often he was targeted, he had to lead everyone in receptions and yards, whether it be 1-on-1s or 7-on-7 or whatever, fastball. I was very impressed.
He might have had the most receptions of anybody for sure.
Yeah.
He caught a lot of passes. And you know who else in that tight end room is Shamar Easter.
Yes.
Shamar Easter is a legit athlete, man. We saw a couple plays where he would have the catch and run, and he's got speed. He was outrunning some guys.
Were you a little surprised he didn't? I don't know that he worked with the twos very much at all.
I can't remember, but I mean, it's you got Hasz and Gums.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be over those two guys. And then you also got Pushka, the transfer from Eastern Michigan, who's in there too. So but Pushka is not really going to catch a ton of passes probably.
Yeah. He'll be an extra tackle. Or more like a power tight end or whatever. Yeah, they have options. That is not a question mark. Tight end room for me is just not a question mark. I think that goes without saying.
Mm-hmm.
What else do we have? I think we have a couple more questions. Oh, well, yeah, okay. The Bobby Petrino bit. I don't know if I worded that out correctly. I was reading that aloud this morning. I was like, I don't know if that sounds the way I want it to. But Petrino, there was an article written, and I have it pulled up.
Hey, Ty Washington. We forgot about Ty Washington.
Oh, yeah. Ty. Ty Washington.
I'm so sorry. I forgot. He was hurt in the spring.
He was hurt in the spring. He didn't make any of my notes. Yeah.
That's our excuse. He was hurt in the spring. But Ty Washington, yes, 100%.
Yeah. Someone said that in chat, didn't they? They called us out.
And now I feel terrible because we shouldn't have forgot about him.
We shouldn't have.
But fair enough. Yes, Ty Washington.
So there was an article written by Bet Texas, Aggies among most improved college football offenses in 2023. A&M went from, in 2022, 22 points a game to 2023 when Petrino was there at almost 33 points a game. That's a difference of almost 11 points a game. That was good enough for fourth best in terms of improved offenses. You think we could see something similar at Arkansas? Do you think Petrino is enough to move that needle offensively? Because I think I have his numbers. Arkansas was at 26 points per game. Obviously, 10 plus points a game puts you at almost 37 points. That would be incredible. But you think he can move the needle offensively? And this seems like a pretty easy question, but does he move the needle enough, and how much do you think he can move the needle on offense?
Yes. I mean, when you compare it to last year, if you want to talk about like improving from a year to next year, you would hope that Arkansas improves significantly. The passing game should be much better. I have no clue what they were doing last year every time they dropped back to throw the ball, but
oh my gosh.
And then obviously they couldn't run the ball either. So I think you're going to see a different offense, but you still have some of your key pieces there. And that's why I was talking about the receiver room, is because, like, how much do those guys change? How much does a guy like Andrew Armstrong improve? How much does Tyrone Broden improve? Broden only had like 15 catches, 11 catches, something like that last year. Same for Isaiah Satania. Like, those guys need to take a step forward. I think they can under Bobby Petrino. I think we saw in the spring that they can. I don't know how it's going to translate to the field against SEC competition, though. Like, that's the thing I worry about, is like, this schedule's tough. It's hard. It's hard to find wins in this schedule because everybody's so good.
It feels like everybody, and Mason, don't feel like you have to answer this, but it felt like every single team in the SEC improved beyond Arkansas in the offseason.
Well, that's another thing that you think about when you ask offensively, what does this team do better than last year? Well, what did they change? You got Taylor Green at quarterback now, who I think probably has a higher ceiling this year at quarterback than KJ Jefferson had last year. Even though we were talking about KJ Jefferson as one of the top quarterbacks in the SEC, he had a completely new wide receiver room, new offensive line, everything. Now you got Taylor Green, and you're saying, okay, we've got some veterans for you on the offensive line. We've got a tight end room that's going to be one of the best in the SEC, and we also have receivers who are here for the second year in a row. Can you figure it out? I worry, like, did they add enough at receiver? You know, Caffrey Brown, a guy from South Florida, former four-star, you know, can he come in and do like a Matt Landers type thing? You know, they brought in Jordan Anthony, former A&M guy, former Kentucky guy, all-world track guy.
Yeah.
But is he going to be able to stay healthy, and is he going to catch passes? Because he hasn't done that in his college career. So, like, I don't know what that's going to look like. I do think they got better at running back, to be quite honest with you. Jaquin Jackson, I think, is really good.
Yeah, the running back room.
Which is crazy to say. It's crazy because you're talking about Rocket Sanders, A.J. Green, Dominique Johnson, Rashad Abinion, but from what I saw from that group last year, I think that they have improved.
Yeah.
But if you want to go back 2 years, then obviously Rocket Sanders ran for 1,500 yards, you know?
Yeah.
It's hard to do that.
I say everyone, like, who passed Arkansas, I don't know, and I'm with you. I don't know that they did enough to move the needle. And I did my predictions. I said all offseason, I'm not going to do one this year. I'm not going to do one this year. And then someone DM me and they're like, man, I would really love to hear your take on this. And I ended up and I didn't do a super deep dive, and people brought up that we forgot to mention the bye weeks, which are important. But to be honest with you, I'd already kind of factored those into my decision. But I put Arkansas at first glance 5-7. And I don't know that there was enough to move the needle for them to be bowl eligible. Do I think that on paper they're better than probably Mississippi State, Vanderbilt? Yeah, of course. Maybe we'll see about South Carolina. Florida's, a lot of people think Napier might actually finally figure it out at Florida. I don't know. But yeah, there's I don't know. We were there at spring camp, and I'm not trying to dog on them too much. And there's only so much you can take from spring camp. I was kind of hoping to see something to just walk home when I do my little Patreon videos, just be like, oh my God, like this dude is a legit 100% baller. And unfortunately, we're just not going to know that until we see them play. So you also got to take, especially with the portal era, you have to take predictions with a grain of salt anyways.
Yeah. You asked me before we recorded, like, players that stood out to me in spring ball, and you're talking about guys that, you walk away from practice and you're like, man, wow. And we haven't talked about defense really at all. There's two defensive players, like Landon Jackson's Landon Jackson, but there's two defensive players that really stood out to me in the spring. One of them was Brad Spence at linebacker. I felt like Brad Spence was just like making plays day after day. And I asked Sam Pittman about him multiple times. I was like, "What do you just feel like he's just kind of in the right spot at the right time a lot?" And I feel like Sam was like, "Well, he's just good. That's because he's good." And I think you're going to see a lot of him at linebacker. And I think a guy like Brad Spence is why you saw them maybe not do as much at linebacker in the portal before the spring that you thought they were going to. They did add a couple pieces, but I do think that Brad Spence was impressive in the spring. And then Jalen Braxton, man. Jalen Braxton's like a top 3 player on this team. It's Luke has Landon Jackson and Jalen Braxton. Jalen Braxton is a legit SEC corner. He could start for probably any team in the SEC. I don't know what Georgia's corners or Bama's corners look like right now, but he could at least compete. He's that good. I really like Jalen Braxton.
Yeah, he was special, and he had a strong year last year. Fully expect him to be incredible this year.
Let me ask you this, Ty. We're talking about the schedule, though.
Okay.
I was thinking about this the other day. What SEC game is the most winnable on this schedule? Because you want to say like at Mississippi State, but that's a road game. You think about the home games, but the home games are tough, man. Ole Miss, LSU, Tennessee. Those aren't easy games.
I don't know how to feel. I know SEC Mike is all about Texas A&M this year, but I wonder, like, can you catch them with Elko year one at A&M? Maybe he just, I don't know. He runs.
That's the one that I thought of.
Say what?
That's the one that I thought of, right?
A&M's the only game it's a neutral field. I mean, let's be real, but that's the game. If you get your one SEC win at least, I would probably highlight that one first. It's early. I don't know if that really matters, but
Sam's done this. This will be the fifth time he's done this game, right?
Yeah.
And also you got a guy in Bobby who's done it plenty of times. Like, I don't know how much that helps you being like, we've played this exact same game in this exact same location plenty of times. I don't know how much that helps you as a head coach or an offensive coordinator, but maybe it does. And that's the one that I look at, and I'm like, that might honestly be the most winnable SEC game.
Yeah. Because, like you said, the Fayetteville games, are you kidding me? Like, they're great games if you're a fan of SEC football.
Yeah.
Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, who, let's face it, Ole Miss is likely a playoff caliber team, as is Mizzou, and you play them in Columbia. It's tough, man. And, it's kind of like what Bobby said. You remember what he said about Lamar Jackson? We didn't really know what we had until we put him in the game time, and then it was like, wow, we know exactly what we have now once we actually got to see him play. I'm hoping that's what happens with this offense. I'm hoping that's what happens with Taylor Green. There are things to be excited about, like individual parts of this team that are like, yeah, okay. You look at, we talked about the tight ends. I think Carmona, I don't know how he's going to fare coming from San Jose State up against SEC, probably, top 5 round draft picks every week. But he did pretty good, like you mentioned, against Jackson through camp, and Jackson is probably going to be among those, top 5, top 8 defensive ends taken out of the draft. I would imagine Mel Kiper had him in the first round up until shortly after the Alabama game.
Yeah,
but yeah, there are some individual pieces about this team that if the pieces fall where they're supposed to, and we make a complete puzzle, maybe this team does surprise us all.
And I posted a story on HogBeat.com the other day about ESPN's quarterback situation rankings. Last year they had Arkansas top in the SEC with KJ. This year they have them in tier 11 alongside Vanderbilt and some other schools that you don't want to be alongside. And I posted the story and it sat for a day, and I just was like, okay, this just doesn't feel right, because I feel like Taylor Green's better than these guys. I don't feel like Taylor Green is on the same level as some of these guys that ESPN has listed around him. And maybe that's just because I watched him in spring ball and I thought he looked good and all that good stuff. But you go back and you just watch his film and you think about the fact that Bobby Petrino was trying to take a chance on this guy out of high school. And then he's the guy that Bobby wanted to go get. Then you look at him and Bobby, he didn't compare him to Lamar Jackson, and he made that clear. He was like, I'm not comparing him to Lamar, but and this was a question that I asked him, it feels like Taylor has handcuffs on in practice, and maybe that would lead to him throwing interceptions a lot. I think back to spring ball, and when he threw some of his interceptions, it was because he wasn't allowed to get out of the pocket, and the defense was running blitz drills on him. And it's like, what do you expect the quarterback to do when he's throwing off his back foot? He's obviously not going to have a great throw every time. It's practice. That's how that stuff goes. But I just cannot wait to see him fully unleashed when he can get out of the pocket, because we didn't get to see that at all in the spring, really. Him getting out of the pocket and not worrying about having to throw the ball, and he can run it if he wants to, because that's a huge part of his game is running the ball. That's true. And we just haven't been able to see that yet in an Arkansas uniform, and I'm excited to see it.
Oh man. Yeah, that's the X factor. As corny and cheesy as that sounds, he is a legit X factor, meaning he could be a huge piece to the success of Arkansas with Petrino calling the plays, with, like you mentioned, some of these guys coming back in the wide receiver room, hopefully a healthy Luke has this year. I do think there's some potential here, and I see, I got called out by people in my own Discord about my 5-7 record. Well, what about this guy? This guy, look at this. Look at the scenario here, and let's not forget the bye weeks. And it's like, okay, but there's still just as many question marks as there are, the X factors, right? And a lot of moving parts here.
And it's also like it's June 19th right now. Wait until we get to like August 18th or something like that, and then we'll be up to about like 6-7 wins. Not we, because everybody always does that thing where like the media always hypes the team up and makes us feel like they're going to win more games. No, I'm saying you as an Arkansas fan. Now there's some people who are always going to be skeptical, but just flip on the radio in August and you'll hear the people calling in and saying, I really think we can win 8 or 9 games this year.
Oh yeah, it goes up the closer to football season you get.
Yeah, and that's every team, but
it is.
We're in June right now. Obviously, people aren't super excited. What is there to be excited about right now? There's not a whole lot to be excited about. But once we start posting those clips from practice, you feel better about stuff.
Yeah,
it'll get more exciting. Plus, if you're truly a football fan, you're just going to be excited to watch football, and that's where I'm at. I'm about to start studying for fantasy football drafts. That's when I start to get super excited. You start grilling out a little bit, pre-tailgating, practice for tailgating, all that stuff. It's the fun of football season.
It really is. I am a fan of the game of football, and whether Arkansas is going to be good or bad, you know what? I'm here to cover them. It's it's why I've been able to grow Patreon and get sponsors and do the things I'm able to do, because I think I show the enthusiasm that I have, even though people accuse me of being pessimistic. It's like, no, hold up. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing, whether it be fall camp, spring camp, during the season, and what we see on the field, what everybody sees on the field. I'm just giving you my take. You do the same thing over at Rivals. It's what we're paid to do. And try not to, you got to take the hog cap off and try to be as unbiased as humanly possible. Try to look at it from an outsider's perspective.
You got to have that balance. You can't, because if we go too far in one direction and you're that person where like, man, Taylor Green looked like a Heisman winner at practice today, then they're going to be like, I don't believe you. I can't believe you because you're just a sunshine pumper. But if you leave practice and you're like, Taylor Green shouldn't even be starting at Pine Bluff or something like that.
Which nobody is saying, by the way.
No, that's just there's an example.
Yeah.
Is then you're like, okay, well, this guy's pessimistic all the time, and why would I even care about Arkansas football if I read what he says? So you have to have the balance, and sometimes reporting the facts and what actually happened is not always what you want to hear.
It's not always popular. And
it's like with the Taylor Green quarterback list thing that I was talking about. Like, ESPN's the one who wrote that. I'm just sharing what they wrote, and then after sitting on it for a little bit, I'm like, okay, this probably isn't right. And who knows? Maybe they end up being right, and it just doesn't work out for Arkansas. But as of right now, I don't feel like that is like the tier that he should be in.
I'll tell you your tweet you made on the 17th. Arkansas gets a football or baseball commitment, and then you screenshot all the responses. Dude, I was laughing. Oh my gosh, but it's so accurate. It's so true. No one cares, especially when the product on the field has been what it's been, and you're only winning a few games.
Well, and it's tough because that is a vocal minority, and it's normally a lot of the time the same people. And if you log off the internet and you talk to people face to face, you're not going to get those same answers. So I just always highly encourage people to do that aspect of it too, because what you read online sometimes isn't what reality is.
Exactly.
So,
and you said a second ago, there's not a lot to be excited about, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's one thing. I don't know. So long time ago, my off-season list of things to do, or what got me excited for football, was Lindy's and Athlon preseason magazines, Phil Still, and then what would come shortly after that was EA's NCAA football. And Mason, it's back, man. Like, it's back on the 19th, and I am so excited. We're doing an online dynasty for Tuss Talk, Discord. I'm so pumped about that. It almost feels like, it feels like before they took the game away. Really excited about that. Do you plan on? Are you much into that?
I used to be.
Yeah.
And I still have my 360, and like anytime I play video games, most of the time I'm playing NCAA 14 on my 360. So, but my issue is I don't have a next gen console. I have the Xbox One. I guess it's Series S. Is that the one that was before next gen?
I only play PS5. I get them all mixed up.
Okay. But I don't know, man, because I have to get a next gen console, and I've been looking on like Facebook Marketplace because I don't want to pay full price. So if somebody's trying to sell a next gen console, hit me up, because I would love to play the game, but it's hard to talk my wife into spending like $600 just to play one video game.
I know, and they're fixing to drop the PS5 Pro this winter, and it's like, man, I just got my PS5. So what am I supposed to do? How am I going to talk my wife into that? She's going to be like, well, just use your business account. I don't want to.
See, that's it. That's my thing, is like, technically it could be a business expense, because I'm probably going to like write stories about where they're like, what's the rating of every Arkansas player.
Write it off.
$600, because once you pay for the console, you also got to pay for the game. Then you got to pay for the controllers. It's so expensive nowadays.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. And video games are more. I don't play much. We're doing a Madden Online Dynasty right now, and it was way more popular than I thought it would be. Because again, it's a college football Discord. It's Tuss Talk. We just talk Arkansas sports. We don't talk pro sports. I might rub it in their faces when the Rams win the Super Bowl, but whatever. No one really cares. You got a few people who follow teams, whatever. A couple Cowboy fans in there. Don't know why, but no one cares. And yet, I don't know how. I think we have like 16 people playing this game on the online dynasty, and I'm sitting here thinking, oh my god, if there's that many playing Madden, EA college football is going to be nuts.
Yeah,
it's going to be nuts.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. I'm excited to see maybe. So I was told by someone with the U of A that 90 Arkansas players had opted in to the game. So I'm curious.
Really?
I'm curious to see like maybe what names aren't included. So I don't know exactly, and I don't know how many players they have total on their roster, including walk-ons. But I would have to assume it's more than 90. So
yeah, it's what's the cap? Isn't it like 130 or something?
I don't know off the top of my head, to be
I don't
quite
either. Well, that is interesting.
More than 90 because they've got jersey numbers up to 99 and they've got doubles. So
yeah, that's something, by the way, I hope they get right on. That always drove me crazy back in the day. You could do doubles you could do some doubles, but and then the number 0 didn't exist. I played revamped, called NCAA revamped, and they did a great job with that, making that game feel modern. And that was the big thing. Like if someone, who was it that wore 0 at Arkansas? AJ Green.
Mm-hmm. And Nico Davier.
Yeah, Nico Davier. Yeah, so you couldn't do that, So that always drove me crazy. So it's nice that they're going to do that.
Yeah.
Little thing that kind of got on my nerves. All right, that is going to do it. Mason from HogBeat.com. Also check out his podcast. Tell him a little bit about your pod and what you guys have going on.
Diamond Hawks podcast, Arkansas baseball. That's what we talk. Myself, Robert Stewart, who no longer covers the Razorbacks, but we had enough listeners that people wanted us to keep doing it, so we did. And we just did an off-season episode. We usually don't do off-season episodes, but everybody keeps asking questions, and so I was like, let's just talk about it. So we actually just released it this morning, so just type in HogBeat Podcast Network wherever you get your podcasts, and you will find the Diamond Hawks podcast there. So
you guys crush it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I had a brief brain fart. I was like, I can't think of their name off the top of my head, and but I have listened to you guys. You guys crush it over there. You do really well. If there's anything baseball going on, I'm going to pull you guys up for sure. So, okay, he's Mason Choate. I'm Ty Hudson. I appreciate you guys. Mason, again, thanks so much, man. We'll have to do this again.
Will do, man. Appreciate it.
Take it easy.
You too.
So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Shout out to all you that were here. Again, make sure on your way out you like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Shout out to the sponsors: Direct Service Overhead, the Garage Door Company, same-day services, quality parts, affordable outcomes, better than best results. By the way, the owner, Travis Ford, is responsible for that awesome thumbnail that you clicked on before you came in. So shout out to Travis. He crushed it. As always, that man is he's a mad scientist. He knows what he's doing with these thumbnails, and he also uploaded some really cool commitment art on the Twitter. You've probably seen it. People don't want to give him credit, but he's the guy responsible for those. So he also is the owner of Direct Service Overhead. So give him some support, huh? You need a garage door fixed, repaired, replaced, whatever. Give DSO, give them a call or click the link down below. Also, speaking of EA College Football 2.5, sign up or call and get a free quote from Insurance Max. You get a chance at winning a copy of EA College Football 2.5. They cover business, personal life and health, retirement. They've got you on the insurance front. They cover you in all four corners of the state of Arkansas. They shop the best rates for you. So, again, hope you guys enjoyed that interview. I'm sure we'll have Mason on again soon. He and I talk at practice and camp. So really good dude, and I thought we need to get him on here. So yeah, I'm gonna be tampering. I'm gonna be tampering and getting Jeremiah Smith to Arkansas. Yes, sir. Speaking of the thumbnail, look at that. Hog Homer says immaculate thumbnail. Yeah, Travis kills it. What's up, fellas? Hope you're having a great start to your day. Well, we're halfway through the week already. I do have a live show to get us caught up on recruiting on Friday and whatever else we have to cover by Friday. So we're back to that off season, about 2 live shows a week. That's kind of where we're at right now. I'm hoping to get some more edited content to you guys. So be on the lookout for that. Maybe some YouTube shorts. You know how it goes. Gotta stay busy. Make sure if you want to listen, we're doing the giveaway. Okay? You're still here. You're still watching. Put your eyeballs on your screen for just a second. Maybe you got your earbuds in. Put your eyeballs on the screen for just a second. You got a shot if you join Patreon in legendary status at winning one of these 2 awesome cards. It's an autographed, there we go, autographed Alex Collins, Hunter Henry on the same card. That's legendary status. And then Hunter Henry, another Hunter Henry with a piece of player-worn fabric. So, yeah. Now what you do, you take your index finger and then you scroll down to that little more tab, you click it, and then you click on the Patreon and you join, you sign up, and you get a shot if you join legendary status at winning one of those 2 cards. We've also got a couple other cards for the giveaway. Ryan Mallett foil, the foil card. That'll be for the $4 folks, and the $8 folks get a shot at winning this Enzer Benintendi card. So there you go. That's it, man. All right. Shout out to everybody. I appreciate you guys for being here. Looking forward to, I'm looking forward to Patreon and continue its growth because we're over 100 members, we're creeping up on 110 members. That's awesome. So yeah, and join Discord too while you're at it. If you're a Patreon supporter, you need to be in Discord anyways. That's where it's all happening. That's where you get access to the hidden channels. All right. I'll be back on Friday. You guys be good. If you're in Morrilton, just hit the deck. Be on the lookout down in Morrilton, Arkansas. All right. Someone's acting a fool down there. I'll see you guys on Friday. Be good.